Hello, and welcome to Sinosure Gaming's review of Call of Cthulhu. My name is Mason, and I will be walking you through the gameplay features and story elements of this title today. Just note that there are some early game spoilers, so let's dive on in. Call of Cthulhu takes place in 1924, with the player assuming the role of Detective Edward Pierce, a private investigator, who is sent to the mysterious Darkwater Island to investigate the death of Sarah Hawkins and her family. They all died tragically in a fire in their mansion, but some don't believe it was an accident. Being a veteran of World War I, Pierce has nightmares and crippling PTSD. So much so that he turns to drink. This has conflicted him with jobs, and so he hasn't been able to find much work. Being sent to Darkwater is both a blessing and a curse. The story mostly revolves around talking to people and in searching the environment for clues. The further Pierce goes, the more his sanity will be tested. This is manifested in both gameplay and story options along the way. There is an RPG system that we'll be seeing later in the video, and it's while not as deep as many RPGs, it does give you enough room to customize your Pierce the way you want and experience the story in different ways. The game itself, of course, is told from first-person perspective, and is mostly a walking simulator type of game with small different sections interspersed in it. There are a couple stealth sections, and there is one which we could call a shooting section, but it's not in the traditional sense. As you can see, light and darkness play a significant role in the game. Picking up this lantern has allowed me to illuminate different areas of the map, and paying attention in the environment, sometimes you'll see things that may not be there. Just like that. There was a small little thing that rippled through the waves. What could it be? Was it just another whale? A fish? A rock falling? Or maybe something more unknown? You'll pick up items as you traverse around, such as this bolt cutter, which can be used to solve puzzles and access new areas. As you can see, it's just a simple interaction. As we continue on, the environments are pretty diverse, and while the graphics aren't top of the line, they do get the job done, and everything does look beautiful. Sometimes you'll see a bit of slowdown with the game. That's alright. There's nothing too major, and the load times are a bit long. I have shortened them down for this video just so you don't have to sit through them. I wanted to show off as much of the game as possible. As you can see, we are going through a dream state where we're stuck in a cave with a bunch of dead whales. What could this mean? You're going to have to piece this together until we actually know the truth. Pierce's mind is a fragile thing, so you want to be careful with what you do. Looking at certain things or witnessing certain events will cause his mind to further deteriorate, and he can go insane. This does factor into the game's endings, as there are 4 endings. While you can turn your eye to some events, you will have to witness a good deal of them, so your sanity will not be in the best place towards the end of the game, but this is to be expected of a Call of Cthulhu game. If you know anything about the Lovecraft universe, you know that minds are fragile, and seeing anything that's remotely otherworldly can break you. So, for the story to work, you do have to see a couple events that are startling for Pierce. While the story is mostly solid, there are a couple nitpicks here and there where it is somewhat hard to keep track of time or keep track of where things are at. You will be in a couple dream sequences where it does move you around into places you weren't before. You'll wonder how you get back to certain areas. But all in all, the story is very well written and very well paced. All the characters have unique quirks to them and are genuinely likable as you get to learn about who they are as people. There are other opportunities to see through others' eyes, and while I won't spoil how or when, we do get a better look at the inhabitants of Darkwater and their day-to-day routines. For Pierce, though, a lot of the gameplay will be investigating crime scenes. Pierce has what some would consider detective vision. He can look around and see different things in the world, such as maybe a burned mark on the floor. What happened here? A missing painting on the wall, the outline clearly visible. What does it mean? As you rank up your investigation skills, you'll be able to piece together more and more. But that's not the only skill you have. You also have eloquence, psychology, strength, spot hidden, as well as occultism and medicine. The last 2 can only be upgraded by looking through books and reading different pieces of occult information. As you grow, you will also learn new skills, such as lockpicking. But these do come at a cost. They aren't guaranteed. Your skills are essentially a dice roll, but you do have a higher chance of landing that dice roll the more leveled up your character is. So it is a give and take kind of system, and you will be earning points up until the end of the game, although some of them do feel a little useless by the late game. An early option we'll see in just a moment is the ability to decide whether or not you want to drink alcohol. Alcohol doesn't affect anything, but it does determine who Pierce is as a person. He is broken from the war, stuck on sleeping pills. Does he also turn to drink? That's up to you to decide. To discuss more about the gameplay, you are going to be looking at a lot of different items and reading a bunch of different things. So, if you're not the one to read, this might not be the game for you. And if you're expecting this to be more along the lines of Dark Corners of the Earth, you're going to be a little disappointed. Dark Corners of the Earth did have a midway point where you did get firearms, and it kind of went from a stealth horror game into straight action. And, unfortunately, this game doesn't do that. This game's much slower paced and more in line with Lovecraft's vision, for better or for worse. Most people will feel pretty split about this game. Some will be willing to overlook the rough aspects and see the true gem hidden underneath, while some may not find it their cup of tea because of the slow pace and the odd animations, as well as just not really being that scary. For a Cthulhu game, it's not scary because most people are inundated with Cthulhu in their everyday lives. We see a lot of pop culture references to Lovecraft, so it has lessened the blow of the scare factor in this. Another thing that will turn off players is the two stealth sections in the game. One is in a mental hospital, and that one's not awful. The AI in it is a little stupid, so you can get around them pretty quickly. But the second one is a pretty trial and error thing, and your hiding skills don't always work. What we're seeing right now, though, is me leveling up the character. At first I thought to invest in psychology, but I remembered what I wanted to do for this run was do a spot hidden, investigation, and strength build. Strength will help you get past certain obstacles by using physical strength. Investigation will allow you to conclude things better while investigating. And spot hidden, you can find hidden objects in the area. And like I said, you have to read medical books or find occult items to increase your occultism or your medical profession. With all these skills building upon each other, it does open up new dialogue options as well as new gameplay options. A puzzle might require you to have a certain strength level to roll high enough to get that strength requirement. It's essentially what would be a D&D skill check, because this is heavily based off of the pen and paper RPG Call of Cthulhu.
But are those cases worth it?
But in addition to these skill checks, there are some unique puzzle elements that I haven't really seen in other games. Midway through, you are tasked with finding sigils and lighting them with your lantern. Illuminating them with your special lantern filled with whale oil does get rid of them and unlocks further passages throughout the asylum. It is an interesting concept, but ultimately it does drag on a bit long. As well, there is a really interesting sequence where you are chasing down a monster and trying to figure out a way to get rid of it. As you know, in Call of Cthulhu there isn't really a way to get rid of monsters, only try and send them back from whence they came. It's a fun sequence, but ultimately is a little tiring. But what Call of Cthulhu does get right is the story and the atmosphere. It does try new things, and I do appreciate it for that. All in all, the game is fun. It is roughly about 6 to 8 hours, and you could probably complete it in one weekend if you want to just sit down and take your time with it. The game itself, though, does have some slight replay value due to those RPG elements and trying to get the multiple endings. They're just going through to see if you can avoid certain events that would drive you mad, and learning what everything means. It all has some really interesting implications. And while not built on the actual Call of Cthulhu story, or any Lovecraft story in general, I think the developers at Cyanide built a really well done tale. They knew the source material and they showed true love for it. So, while not a perfect game, I'm willing to give it a great score. I'd say this game deserves a 4 out of 5 and is well worth your time. Call of Cthulhu is $59.99 and available on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Thank you for your time. Subscribe to Cynosure Gaming on YouTube, and also check out our site at cynosuregaming.com. This has been Mason. Thank you for watching.
Tell me all the assumptions that come to mind.
What am I supposed to find?
Tell me if this is the work of madness. Or if, on the contrary, you manage to detect some logic, a rationality to follow so that I may understand it.
Is that all?